In the past few months, I have experienced just we'll say like a full circle type of moment. And I've been debating about whether to do this episode or not. And I feel like now is a good time to do so. And I know that you are in most likely a very different season of life than I am, or maybe there's a little bit of a crossover there. I find myself right now with teens and young adults, and I guess my second teen, my middle kiddo is a teen, but doing young adult type of life stuff. So he's kind of that depends on the number. You talk about the life stuff. So, but I definitely have a teen. And I definitely have a young adult and one right there in the middle. And I'm finding as a mother that I have basically that I need to parent them all very differently because they're just in different seasons and different focuses. And it's been fun. It's been a little bit of a challenge, and I feel like I have to recalibrate each time. But I find myself now, as I am closer to 50 than I was just a couple of years ago, and I find myself just thinking back a lot, especially since I get to interact with so many of you and have conversations with you and just walk alongside you as you are in just a different season of life than me, in a season that I used to be. And so today's episode is dedicated to my previous season, but it's for you because I want you to see that the fruit and the hard work that you are putting in right now is going to be worth it. I am now starting to reap that harvest. Yes, I still have a 16-year-old. We still have things to work through and things to focus on. And it just, it's so neat to be able to see that, yes, that time. So even when my oldest was 16, I was like, is this time worth it or not? I know that the effort that I'm still putting into with my youngest is going to be worth it as well. So today's episode is all about me sharing just where I have been and looking back now. And it's done in a way that I want to encourage you to stay strong where you are right now in your convictions, in your family culture, and with your goals and the vision that you have for your family, what you want to pour into your children. Because I promise you that in the years to come, you will begin to see, and you might even be seeing now, some of that fruit. But there is a very rich harvest awaiting you years down the road. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening. When my kids were all probably between the ages of being a toddler and early elementary school age, I came across a book in my local Christian bookstore because there was not Amazon then. Maybe there was, but I was actually too afraid to order anything from the internet because I thought it was a scam. Isn't that funny how things change? But I came across the book called The Power of a Praying Parent. Now, I hope I'm saying her name right. I mean, it looks like it should be pronounced Stormy O'Martian. That's how I call her. So if I'm wrong, I apologize to her. But I picked up this book when my kids were little and began going through it. The chapters are laid out with different topics of what to pray for your children. And before she has a prayer written out for you to pray, and of course, obviously, you should pray for that topic in your own words as well, but it's a good guidance. There's a chapter up all about that and talking about it. And I remember sitting down being, okay, I'm going to pray for my kids. And maybe my oldest child might have been 6, 7, 8 or something like that. And sat down and I started reading through it. And I felt really silly praying about these things because they were so young at that time. And I was like, I feel like this is a little bit of a waste of time. So I'm going to pull it out here. I'm going to tell you some of the chapter titles. There are actually 30 chapters in this book, but it's not that long. Trust me, it's not that long. Each chapter is just a couple of pages. But some of the types of categories is protecting them from harm, helping them to feel loved and accepted, establishing an eternal future for them, attracting godly friends and role models, being the person God created them to be, enjoying a life of health and healing. This one is kind of a little funny. Having the motivation for proper body care. That definitely applies for sometimes. But staying attracted to holiness and purity, receiving a sound mind, things like avoiding alcohol, drugs, and other addictions. Another chapter's about rejecting sexual immorality, finding the perfect mate for them. So there's just a lot of different topics. And I felt like at the time as I prayed for them, I was like, these don't apply to them at all right now in this season of life. But I went through the book, and I'm going to tell you, I have probably been through this book and praying through these prayers, I don't even know how many times, maybe at least 10 times or so. And I put the book aside, and I haven't looked at it for a couple of years. And then I found it on my bookshelf just a couple months ago. And I pulled it out, and I was like, I'm going to go back over and pray for these things. The great thing about this was that it gave me specific topics that I would not have thought about praying for them. Yes, we want to pray for their physical safety, and we want to pray for them to be healthy, and we want to pray for them to be pure and everything that falls under that. But there was a lot of little chapters that I never really thought of, and it gave me that awareness. So I continued to pray. Even during these years, maybe in between reading the book, I would continue to pray through those topics. But as I sat down and started reading through the chapters and praying the specific prayers, it hit me. Wow. I started praying these prayers for my kids when they were small and young and completely under my care. They didn't have any idea really of what the real world was like at all. And they had no idea of the challenges that they would face. And I'm not even quite sure if we were homeschooling at that point or not. But I can say now, as I'm going through it, I have probably cried almost every single chapter that I have read because I realized God has been so faithful in answering these prayers. And James and I have been faithful as well to pour into them, to be intentional and to pour into these different areas and to stick to our convictions, to have the line in the sand and to hold that line and to teach them what it is to love God and to glorify Him and to love others and just everything that falls under that umbrella. And as I have gone through, it's been good. So the tears have been tears of goodness and love and appreciation and thankfulness to God for His faithfulness. And I just was realizing how I got to go along, partner alongside God with this. I got to pray for these specific areas, and then I got to actually step in and take the action. There's the praying, but then there's also action. If there's something that you can do, then you should do it. To just say, we'll say theoretically, the praying against any type of harm, or we'll say any type of harm that maybe somebody from outside the family could do to them, whether that's physical, emotional, spiritual, all of those types of categories. If I don't take the action to protect them from those other people, then the prayers are great. And yes, the prayers can be enough. They definitely can be enough, but I'm also called to partner with God. And so part of that would be not putting my kids into certain positions of where they could be influenced or harmed in some type of way. One of those things was sleepovers. And I did an episode back maybe last year or so, and I talked about how I just didn't feel that was a good thing, that was going to be pouring into them. Felt like there's possibly some harm that could come to them because of that. And so we decided not to do that. Now, that doesn't mean if you let your kids go to sleepovers that there's going to be harm or anything done to them. But just for me, remembering back to sleepovers that I participated in and being like, I don't really want my kids to participate in that, and deciding that that wasn't going to be an option for our family. But we get to partner with God, and we get to come alongside with Him and pour into them. And so that has just been the beauty of me reading and going back through this book and saying, wow, this is just amazing. I felt at the time when I prayed some of these prayers, there was such heaviness. So going to the chapter about their health and just some of the health concerns. And as I read through that prayer, my mind flooded back to different times in my kids' life when I had some really big concerns about their health. And I'm not going to share specifically any of those here on the podcast because it's not my story to tell. It's their story to tell. And as my kids have gotten older, I have held back more because really the stories are theirs and it's up for them to be able to share that in whatever way that they want to. But I could think specifically about each of my children and different ages and specific health struggles or concerns with their health that I have, and being like, wow, those are no longer a concern. We walked through that. We worked through it. God has healed them. We've gotten to the other side and they're okay and they're healthy. And yes, there'll be health concerns that come up as things go along, but it was just really, really neat to be able to think back to those concerns that I had at different ages that they were and seeing how those prayers were answered. Now, there are some of the prayers in this book that I am still mightily praying for, still protection against them. And some of the chapters that have to do with just their relationship with God, I was like, wow, here I didn't know for so many years. We did Bible studies, we did all the things, vacation Bible schools, and just, all of the things, the Bible, the devotions, the Adventures in Odyssey, and everything, and pouring into them and trying to live as a model of showing them what it is to live a life devoted to Christ, and seeing now, wow, hey, guess what? It worked. So I want to encourage you, these hard seasons that you might find yourself in, pray. If you want to grab this book, go ahead and get the book because it's a good one. You can probably find it on Amazon for less than $10 or something. And you can order it from Amazon. You should be okay. I don't think Amazon is a scam like I thought it was years ago. But if you are just in a season where you have a lot of concerns, or your kids are just young and you're like, how is this actually going to turn out? Now, again, we can't control how things are going to turn out. I was talking to my youngest one time and just fairly recently. And he said something and I said, you know what? My job is to be faithful to how God has called me to raise you right now. You are eventually going to be an adult out of the house and you're going to make your own decisions. And you have to answer to God for those decisions. I don't have to answer to God for those decisions. I will continue to pray for you my entire life. However, you get to decide, what do you do with the upbringing and the way that we raised you? What do you do? What do you do with that? And that's going to be your choice. And he realized, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I am only responsible for this time that I am here with you. Yes, some of those things and me being maybe irresponsible or not doing things exactly right, yes, those can carry over into the future, but you get to decide, what are you going to do with those? What are you going to do with the less than perfect motherhood that I presented to you? What are you going to do with that? Are you going to play a victim to that and fall into sin? Or are you going to say, my mom wasn't perfect. She did do a good job and she tried and she's still there for me. So I want to encourage you that if you are right now in that season where there's just a lot of work every day, day in and day out, and this level of work could vary with children. I had some kids that during certain seasons that were just a super focus of me and just took a lot of my energy and time. And then there was other seasons where they didn't. And I can see now how God has been faithful and how also I have tried so hard to be faithful to him and what he has called me to. There's another part of this that I want to mention as well. As I started going through this, song kept coming up, and I don't know if it maybe was on Pandora or the radio while I'm out driving and running errands, but I now have it on my Pandora and I've listened to it. And I have been that woman walking through my neighborhood, praising God to this song and just being brought to literal tears because it coincides so much with this. So the song is called Counting My Blessings, and it is by Seph Schluter. That's what I'm going to say. So Seph is S-E-P-H and Schluter. I will actually put the link for the song in the show notes so you can go straight to it. But I want to kind of read you a little bit here of the lyrics, and I can't play it here because I don't own the rights to it. So if I play it here, it would be illegal. Like a little jingle here in the beginning and the end, those are actually songs I've had made, or the music and the jingle is something that I had made. So therefore I own the rights to that. I don't own the rights to the song, so therefore I can't play it on something like this. But I'm going to read you some of the words, and then I encourage you to go listen to it in a way of, I guess, with a focus of thinking of it, yes, God has answered, like, count your blessings right now. But I'm telling you also right now that the hard and the day in, the day out, and just the constant needs of your children and just the time and effort you're putting into, this song will also be something that you can sing to years down the road as well. So the lyrics go like this. It's like it was yesterday. I was praying for a miracle, scared to have a little hope, and now looking back today, seeing all the things you've done, I can't even add them up. 1, 2, 3, up to infinity. I'd run out of numbers before I could thank you for everything. Now the you that he is using, the Y is capitalized and referring to God. Goes on to the chorus here and says, God, I'm still counting my blessings, all that you've done in my life. The more that I look in the details, the more of your goodness I find. Father, on this side of heaven, I know that I'll run out of time, but I will keep counting my blessings, knowing I can't count that high. The next verse goes on and says, and I know the seasons never lost forever. So God, I will remember all the reasons my heart has to be grateful, all the times you've been faithful to me. And then it goes on to the chorus, but some of the words that just really struck me, it was like the very beginning, it was like yesterday, and I was praying for a miracle. And it does feel like just yesterday that my kids were little and needing me constantly. And I was, just like he says in this verse, scared to have a little hope. Is this really going to work? Am I really going to be able to pour into my kids in such a way that they love God and they want to glorify him and they love others? Is this really going to work or not? And then it goes on to say, and now looking back today, seeing all the things you've done, I can't even add them up. And it's so true. And so for me, reading this book when they were younger and then going back now, there's just countless. And I know I can't even remember all of the specifics of the areas that I would pray for. Now, if you are someone who enjoys writing out prayer journals, then you'd be able to go back maybe and look more specifically, but that's not something that I lean towards doing, which, I mean, for good or for bad. It's fine if you do, it's fine if you don't. But I hope that today's episode, I just want to encourage you to maybe grab this book, go ahead and listen to this song. Know that God is faithful right now, what he's doing in your life. He's been faithful in the years that have already occurred in your family, and he will continue to be faithful in the years to come. And at some point later on, as your kids move on, they move out of the home and they launch into the world, you'll be able to look back and you'll say, wow, it did feel like it was just, you'll feel like today, this day you're doing right now, was just yesterday. And you are worried, you had concerns, but just lay it at the feet of Jesus. Know that he is faithful. And I'm excited for the harvest that you have waiting ahead of you as well. Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.